Hello, and welcome to today's Prelude lecture about Peter Grimes. My name is Michaela Calzaretta, and I'm the chorus master at Utah Opera. Carol Anderson asked me if I wouldn't mind talking about Peter Grimes today because she knows that it is one of my most favorite operas of all time. And I was very lucky to be the assistant chorus master on a production of Peter Grimes when I was in my final semester of coursework at Indiana University. I'm currently completing a doctorate of music in choral conducting at IU, and feel very grateful that I was part of such a monumental production. I also have been a big fan of Benjamin Britten's choral repertoire since I was an undergraduate student, and have performed a number of his pieces either as a singer or as a conductor. And I'm very excited to be talking about Peter Grimes today. So because of my work as a chorus master and a choral professional, I'll be discussing the chorus and its importance to the story of Peter Grimes, both musically and emotionally. So, the opera Peter Grimes is arguably one of the most popular and important operas of the 20th century. The libretto was by Montague Slater, who wrote it after George Crabbe's poem, The Burro. The opera was written between 1944 and 1945, and this is Britten's first large-scale opera. His partner in life and in work, Peter Pears, premiered the title role. In fact, many of Britten's leading tenor roles were written for Pears. So, the setting of the opera takes place in the Burro, which is a very small fishing town around the year 1830. The basic boiled-down story is of an individual at odds with society and how the behaviors of such society influence the individual. This is a really common theme among Britten's operas and a plot point that he felt very personally through his own life. This opera is seen as a choral masterwork, and in it we especially see the elevated importance of the opera chorus that we don't always see in typical opera. And the chorus, aided by other characters, we will discover, cast immediate judgment, both right and wrong, and have the power to be incredibly malicious. They are the central part of the story. We don't get the drama without the community of pot stirrers, the mob, the gathering of people that create total chaos. And as you'll discover, you'll see that the power of a community that believes so strongly in something is really incredible and fairly frightening because of their influence. And we will watch this unfold through the entire opera. So, in order to talk about the opera chorus, let's first talk about what is the purpose of a chorus in opera and why are they there, why should we care about them. Let's have a little bit of background on opera choruses in general. So in general, the opera chorus is not given an individual identity. They don't have individual names. They identify as a group of people, and this stems from the ancient Greek tragedy, where the chorus was in the peripheral, offering commentary on the action, but not usually getting involved in the drama. Over time, as opera as an art form evolved and music continued to evolve, the chorus representation changed to be one that reflected the social aspects of the story. So the chorus gives us social and historical context by representing a community. The chorus can also display a lot of diversity, different classes, sexes, ages, occupations, affiliations, and so on. This mass group of people can be oppositional or supportive. They can be alienating or endearing. They can also represent an independent force, a mass character, but together as one. And they also have a lot of power. So the chorus has the power to push a character in a certain way. The chorus has the power to influence plot change or events, and the chorus can be in charge of their own destiny as a group. These are all elements that we see in Peter Grimes. And I'm going to discuss some highlights. So it's impossible to discuss everything in a short amount of time, but I'm going to do my best. But I'm going to highlight some key chorus moments that hopefully will enhance your experience with the production. I love this piece so much that I could probably talk for days about all elements of Peter Grimes, but I hope focusing on the chorus will give you a special way of experiencing the piece and some greater context for the greater importance of an opera chorus within an opera. So first, let's start with the prologue. So when the opera opens, Grimes is being investigated for the unusual circumstances surrounding the death of his apprentice William. And we immediately can tell that the chorus finds him guilty in several ways. First is the sort of attitude of music that they take on. So they start singing very softly, like a murmur, and then it gets louder and louder, like a mob shouting, and then fades away. The attitude is very gossipy and mean, and the style of speech is very angular. When women gossip, the result is someone doesn't sleep at night. And they take on this attitude of speech. The different vocal sections in the chorus generally have the same pitches as you'll hear, but they have varied entrances. This expresses unity, like-mindedness, and this sort of mob mentality. And this style of singing continues 4 times throughout the prologue. However, with the third and fourth entrances, there is a slight change in the attitude because they are outraged that the death of the apprentice is ruled an accidental circumstance, which doesn't make them very happy at all because they've already decided that Grimes is totally guilty. So Peter Grimes as a character is an outsider. He is not like the general townspeople. He grew up in the community and has been a part of the community in terms of where he lives for his entire life, but because he does not behave like the rest of his community neighbors, because he does not carry himself in a way that they think is proper, and because he is really not willing to be part of the community spirit, he is seen as the enemy in their eyes. And so with this prologue, in the first 5 minutes of the opera, we see the twisted, toxic relationship between the mass community and the individual. Then, not long after this, Act 1 officially opens. And as it unfolds, we see the community again, but in a huge change in attitude, motive, and public behavior. The music is very simple and placid. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. It's very pretty, very simple, gentle rhythms, and the chorus sing this together in unison, singing placidly about the flow of life as they work on their morning chores. And this is the same group of people that in the scene before were ready to tear Grimes apart because they believe he's so guilty, and then suddenly the next morning everything is fine. There is this sense of togetherness and unity of a simple, hard-working group of people. And the music is just stunning, and it will be important to remember this music when the opera comes to a close. As the action unfolds, there is a lot of different chorus involvement, but another major chorus entrance is a musical representation of a storm brewing. So outside, the storm is gathering, and the townspeople and members of the cast take turns shouting directions at each other, warning each other of the coming storm. And it is written a lot like a Baroque motet. We have the sharing of motivic material among the different voices and sections, and then it all comes together, and then it breaks apart, and then it comes together again. And it is a wonderful representation of different elements, different parts of the chorus working together. So we have the individual nature of the basses versus the sopranos, but they're all part of one big group. And it's really interesting in this particular scene because they're shouting, instructions to each other, how we can protect our homes and ourselves from this coming storm, which is a big thing for a fishing community on a coast. Because the sea is very important to them. These fisher people live and literally die by the sea. And they have to care about the sea because it provides food and money for them. And they have a desire to help each other survive. Otherwise, the community would literally fall apart. But it's ironic and very hypocritical because while they're shouting instructions at each other of what to do in the storm, they then have no desire at all to lend a hand to Grimes in any aspect because they've already made up their minds that he is guilty. So they're willing to help each other, those townspeople that are like them, but they don't care for Grimes because he is not one of them. The music is again very angular and very tense. Look out for squalls, it's veering in from sea. Look, the storm cone, the wind veers in at gale force. Look out for squalls. Just this bubbling musical storm is really incredible and really gives us a wonderful musical representation of what the storm is going to be like outside, because the storm will eventually rage against the coast. Much further into this act, tensions have been brewing where else but at the local pub. And a majority of the town has gathered there, and there has been some tension and conflict between some of our principal characters up until this point. There have been many unstable relations. I mean, really, this entire opera is about unstable relations. And the song that occurs in an attempt to have peace is really interesting. So the character Bulstrode suggests that someone start singing a song, otherwise things are just going to, fall apart. And so a song is started, what would be a simple sea chanty, but is not so simple a composition because it's in 7/4. 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 is not a very steady or stable time signature. The 1 2 is steady, but the extra beat on the back end is unstable. It feels awkward, like it's teetering on the edge of chaos, which I think is awfully clever because the community at this point is literally teetering on the edge of chaos. And eventually this chaos will erupt in the next act, as we will find. But it's a fantastic piece of music between the cast and the chorus. Old Joe has gone fishing, and young Joe has gone fishing, and has gone fishing and found the mussel. 1 2 3. It's very challenging to put together, but a lot of fun. And it's a wonderful sort of moment of humorous respite in the middle of what has been a very heavily dramatic already Act 1. But the 7/4, the 1 2 1 2 1 2 3, sort of lets us know that things are not so easy, that there's this underbelly of dirtiness and drama and unhappiness that is still to come into the light. It's one of my most favorite moments. So that essentially ends Act 1. Act 2 begins on a lovely Sunday morning, and it's time to go to church. All of the townspeople are at church except Ellen and Peter and a new apprentice. Now, as we all know, whether we attend or not, church is a very communal activity. It's a sign of togetherness and unity, people being brought together and connected through a like-minded religious belief. And in a small town like this one, that like-minded religious belief would be very, very important. And so if you don't attend church, it would not go unnoticed. And everybody knows that Ellen and Peter and the new apprentice, the young boy, are not at church. And what Britten does is create this really incredible effect. All of the chorus is off stage in church with an organ playing with them. And we hear them in the background while we watch the tension rise and general unhappiness displayed between the three characters left on the stage. And this really separates Ellen and Peter from the rest of the town. It alienates our feelings toward them. It isolates their characters while the chorus is singing unison liturgical responses as you would in church. Now, as church continues, the energy from the chorus, when their music changes, rises with the tension that we see on stage. They start chanting this very fast text in a 15/8 time signature, and this driving energy facilitates a rise in our emotions. And the text begins, "O all ye works of the Lord, bless ye the Lord. O ye sun and moon, bless ye the Lord. O ye winds of God, bless ye the Lord. Praise him and magnify him forever." So again, a very interesting time signature, but the chorus creates a sonic atmosphere of chaos without even being physically present on stage. It really is so incredible to experience this out in the audience, because your emotions are sort of betrayed a little bit, because you hear this crazy frenetic energy of chanting and singing from backstage while watching a really horrible argument transpire between two main characters on stage. And stuck in the middle is this little boy. But it's really brilliant how Britten makes the chorus so powerful and important, and we don't even see them. All we have to do is hear them, and everything that we see is affected. Now, further on, we have this section of, we've reached Act 3 now. And the townspeople have previously put a small group of people together, and they've gone to go find Grimes in his hut to confront him, but they can't find him, so they sort of disband and life goes on a little bit as normal. But some new evidence has come up, some new rumors are circulating. Some of our main characters are continuing to stir the pot further, which have, gathered the attention of the townspeople, and they decide really to all together band together, decide to search for Grimes once and for all, and they're not going to rest until they find him. This next musical section has a very Kill the Beast vibe from Beauty and the Beast, when everyone grabs their pitchforks and pillars of fire, and they've gone off to find the beast and bring him to justice. Well, this has a similar feeling. So when the chorus comes in, they sing in major seconds. So the altos have A flats and B flats together, and the tenors and the basses have A flats and B flats together. And they alternate entrances that creates dissonance and tension and a really intense energy. And the style of speech is very similar to that of the prologue, fast, gossipy, almost as if sung through bared teeth. And the text is, "Who holds himself apart lets his pride rise. Him who despises us we'll destroy." This is very telling, very violent speech about, if someone is not like us, who does not look like us, who is not willing to take on our community values, we will literally destroy that person. So the altos and basses start together, then the sopranos and tenors start together, and they continue alternating entrances as the pitches get higher, which increases the energy. Gradually, principal characters are added to further increase the volume and energy. And then to really create chaos, Britten employs a compositional technique that other composers have used before him, particularly in opera, which is to write a fugue. And the fugue is for the entire stage and the orchestra, and they keep repeating the same text. Him who despises us will destroy. Him who despises us will destroy. And this keeps repeating and repeating and repeating, and this undulating energy finally erupts into a very sardonic and taunting ha 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 ha. All of the action slows, and they just start laughing, musically laughing. Finally, at the end of this, we have this incredible choral attack of just the text, Peter Grimes. In unison first between various sections, and then all together in big expanded open fifths. And you're either singing or playing a B flat or an F. Now this creates a very open sonority, which is sort of ominous and also creates a very uneasy feeling because the chord to our Western ears are incomplete. The chord is incomplete. We want there to be a third, but there isn't one. So this definitely foreshadows that the drama, the horror is not over yet, that we have yet to resolve all of this, and we have yet to find Peter Grimes. So I'm not going to give away what happens when they go off and search for Peter. I think you can basically guess that it's not a happy ending, and things don't quite wrap up in the way that maybe we as audience members would like it to wrap up. It sort of depends on how the music has affected you and what characters you've aligned yourself with emotionally, musically. There are a lot of options. But I want to talk about for a few minutes the final chorus because this is really important. So, drama happens, the plot changes, and then suddenly, as if nothing has happened before, the chorus brings us musically full circle. They sing the same tune to close the opera as they did at the beginning of Act 1. That very simple, placid, very calm, beautiful melody that we will probably start humming ourselves when this is over. And they just return to behaving like simple fishing community with no regard to what happened the night before. Eventually, all the other characters join the chorus, and together there's just this sense of ignoring what happened before. This is the dawning of a new day. Life moves on. We move on, and there's nothing we can do about it but just keep going with our work. And it's really incredible and almost maddening that it ends in this way, because if you've aligned yourself with various characters, you will find that this ending is very unsatisfactory. But the fact is that this is how this community behaves. That to a certain point, they ignore problems until they go away. And if they don't go away, we take care of the problem. And then we go back to what we've always been doing, and a return to being very simple people with no regard to drama. We just keep going on as we always have. And that is the power of a community like this one, and the power of an opera chorus in a story like this, because as you'll see when you watch it, they manipulate so much. And from their very first entrance at the beginning of the opera, we see how much they will manipulate the characters, how they in turn will be manipulated by other like-minded principal characters, and really just how powerful a group of people can be who believe something, whether it's right or not, and that influence is very far-reaching. So, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have enjoyed this very brief but hopefully informative and enjoyable walk through the chorus's progression of Peter Grimes. And I want to thank you for tuning in and supporting Utah Opera or your local opera company wherever you're tuning in from. We could not do what we love without the generous support of our patrons. I also want to specifically thank Judy Brady and Drew W. Browning for their continued investment in our company, which helps us present great live opera performances here in Utah. Thank you very much for your generous support. I hope you enjoy the Metropolitan Opera's 2008 production of Peter Grimes.